say good evening to everyone, and we're back again for another Bible study and Bible teaching. Uh, what we're talking about today, I've been teaching over the last couple of weeks, is God's divine will and God's permissive will. God's divine will and His permissive will, and you have to know there is a difference between the two. So I think last week we finished up on all the things for the divine will. Now we're going to be talking this week about God's permissive will. Things that He allows us to do, even though God don't really agree with them a lot of times. But in His permissiveness, He allows us to make a choice. And before we get into that, it is good to know that you serve a God that gives you a permission or will allow you to do the things you want to do instead of making you do what He wants you to do. Any other God you serve, you're going to have to do what that God tells you to do. Look it up, think about it, you'll find that out. Or even if you're serving somebody else. Most of the time when you are serving to somebody else, or even you're working with someone else, you have to get their permission to do something out of the ordinary. Or, they tell you how things are going to be done. And you have to do them according to how they're going to be done. Unless they ask you, or you can say, well, can I do to them? Sometimes people do and sometimes they don't. But when God gives us a permissive will, even that will goes as far as on whether we want to serve Him or not. He don't make anybody serve Him. It is a choice. It's our free choice to make whether we want to serve God or serve the enemy, serve the adversary, better known as the devil, or even serve yourself. See, a lot of us don't want to serve nobody. We just want to serve ourselves. I'm doing what's best for me, and that's it. Now, think about how it is when you're doing what's best for you. Then you're going to have to do everything according to what you will. You ain't going to go outside your own will to do something against yourself. But God gives us a will that we can go against His will and do it ourselves. That don't mean that He approves of it. And He's okay with it. But based on the kind of God we serve, say, okay, you go ahead and, you'll suffer the consequences. You'll see. If you want to do things this way, you can go ahead and do it this way. So, divine will is what God has for us to do, but also He gives us a permissive will. And I don't think anybody ever really knew too much about the two different wills of God. And then the permissive will splits off to other little kind of wills that God say, okay, you can do this. Now, remember nobody in here God is making nobody in here be obedient to Him and do what He tells them to do. Nobody. It's your choice. But where you mess up at is you turn around and say, well, God told me to do this that I'm doing, and then God didn't tell you. So if God didn't tell you, then whose will you going by? Your own. But you want to put the blame on God. Especially if it don't go the way that you said it should go. Now, we're real good about that. We'll put the blame on anybody but ourselves. So, God's permissive will, and what we have here on this page 2, the top of page 2, it says, God's permissive will is what God allows to happen, even if it is not what He prefers or directly delights in, but it still fits into His larger sovereign plan. He is the sovereign ruler. God is the supreme ruler of everything. So He knows who's going to go according to His will and who's not going to go according to His will. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking, he knows anyway what we're going to do, and He allows us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, He already knows we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Whether it's right or wrong.
So in the end, it says He says even if it, but still it fits into his large sovereign plan. So in the end, whichever way you're gonna go, it's gonna benefit him anyway. You know,
Yeah.
now it might not benefit you, but it's gonna benefit him anyway. He's gonna use it for his benefit anyway. So that's not giving you a license to go ahead and just do whatever you wanna do, though. You know, because you can't, you know, in the long run, as they say, when the rubber hits the road, you're gonna have to answer to God anyway. You're doing everything according to your God's permission will, or your will, and everything. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to answer to God, and that is on Judgment Day. You're gonna have to answer. You know, so if you ain't got things set up yet, you might want to get you a little journal and start writing things down. And you know, when something don't, you done made your decision to do this way, and it didn't work out right, didn't go like you right. You need to get a journal and write it down. Then put down whoever you want to blame, because you ain't gonna blame yourself. You're gonna blame somebody else. I didn't do this cause this was this. So you're gonna blame some other kind of situation. But remember, God knows all of it anyway. You know, so you gotta make sure you do that. So now we're gonna get ready to start talking about his permissive will. So if somebody wants to read, start reading there with the first bullet point where it says in Genesis chapter 50.
Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. As for you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. As they are today, Joseph's brothers. It's an evil act was permitted by God, who then used it for a redemptive purpose.
Okay, let me explain that. And that's what he's saying, even if it's meant for his larger sovereign plan, his larger plan. Okay, I'm gonna read there. I'm gonna go over that one. He'll allow things to happen, but still fits in his plan. Now, you do know the story about, it's talking about Joseph, which was son of Jacob. I think it was Jacob. Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob. And Benjamin was the 12th when he had his brother. Named Joseph was the son of the wife, or the one baby mama, well, it was his wife, the one baby mama that he really loved the most, that Jacob loved. So because of his love that he has for Joseph's mother, which was Rachel, he loved the kids by her. Now, I don't know, I don't have kids by two different mothers, but I guess it could be that. You know, you got, if you love the baby's mother, the other, your child's mother, and you had a child by another mother, and you really didn't like the mother, you know, y'all didn't get along, y'all just had a baby together. It don't seem like you would show favoritism to that child. But I guess it does happen. You know, I don't know, this is what happened here. Now, he only had 2 kids by Rachel, who he really loved. That was the love of his life. But by her sister, I think he had 6. Leah. Leah was Rachel and Leah. By her sister, he had 6 or 7. And then by the handmaidens, he had a couple. Anyway, it totaled up to be 12 kids altogether. So Jacob showed favoritism more to Joseph. But Joseph also was a special child. He was a dreamer. God gave him the thing to be able to interpret dreams and to dream. And if you know the story, Joseph dreams a dream about him being over his brothers and stuff. They got mad at him, and they really didn't like him because his father made him a coat of all different kind of colors, and didn't make the other 11 boys didn't get him nothing. You know. And even today, you know how it is. You better not, if you got 2 or 3 kids at home, you better not go home with one sucker and giving it to one and not giving it to the other. You know what I mean? You might as well just stop and get enough for everybody, because the other one's gonna start feeling some kind of way, you know.
And then Joseph was a little arrogant anyway, wasn't he?
Yeah, because his father allowed him to be. Now remember, those kids only do what you allow them to do, and I know that. We have grandbabies and grandkids, and some, especially if you like that one grandbaby, you allow them to say more stuff to you than that other one. I don't come here, oh, I don't want to hear it, shut up. But here come that one you like. You know, one you really like, and they get just about anything they want from you. It ain't that you don't dislike the other grandkids, but you just like this one more.
Favor.
You favor, thank you. You favor this one more. And that's the way Jacob was with Joseph. And he protected Joseph and his brother mainly because they were sons of Rachel, the one he lied. Rachel died in childbirth with Benjamin, the youngest son. But Leah had all these kids, and the other ones had all these kids. So what happened was his brother decided to throw him in a well, and then they sold him off to some slave traders that were going to Egypt, and they thought they had got rid of him. And then Joseph told them, "What you meant for my evil, as you meant evil against me, but God meant good to bring it about that many people should be kept alive that are alive today." When they sold Joseph to Egypt, Joseph in return became second king to Pharaoh. Famine came over the land. Here comes his brothers now, hadn't they come to Joseph, the one that they tried to kill or sold away, and had to buy food from him. And there was in return, Joseph was the one that saved all of the boys of Jacob, the 12 tribes, and moved them into Egypt. So what they thought they did was evil for him, God meant it for him to be good. It wasn't God's permissive will that they should sell Joseph off.
That was their doing.
That was their doing. But in his divine providence and his divine work, it all worked out for the good. See what I'm saying? It all worked out for the good of them. Because if they hadn't went to Egypt to buy food, they would have starved in the land they was in, because it was what they call that? It was a famine in the land. So they had to go to Egypt. And then Joseph could have played the other role. Don't y'all you mean tell me y'all don't remember me? Let me help you remember something. Y'all remember a whale? You know, he could have brung around up, y'all threw me down there. Remember how y'all used to talk about me? Get mad at me? And now you coming to ask me to buy food for y'all. And y'all the one that, put me in this position, put me in this place. But Joseph, since he was God's chosen one to do this, he chose not to act that way. He brought his whole family in. And they became into Egypt. That's how they got into Egypt, through Joseph.
And he didn't tell him, "I told you was gonna bow down."
No,
Yeah.
no,
That
he
was me.
could
I
have
told
told
you you was
He
gonna
could have
bow
told him
down.
that. Yeah, y'all remember I told y'all this.
Yeah.
I told him, I told y'all.
But
I think he wanted to.
No, but you know what? He should have had to tell them. They should have remembered it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One of them probably did. Didn't say nothing.
And now y'all doing exactly what he said
Like
y'all
I
was
said.
gonna do in this dream, bowing down to him.
You know, he look like Joseph.
You know, I was just playing Joseph, man. I was just joking with you. Boy, you know how y'all brother. You know, bro.
Bro.
They'll just give us some of this food. So Joseph, they did that. This is what he was saying, how these Bible verses can show you how God, even though you do something, and it's against God's permissive will, you're exercising your permissive will, God still uses in the long run, to fulfill his plan.
His divine will.
His divine will and his plan.
But Joseph did have some kind of revengeful thoughts and things about him, because when he set him up with what did he do? He hid some stuff in their packages and
Yeah. He did it, because it just ain't rest, it'll take you a while. They left him for dead. They sold him off to be a prisoner. He left his father's house. He ended up I seen where a guy preached a sermon on that. I think it was from the pit to the palace, or from jail. He was in a jailhouse.
yeah.
He left there, and God rose him up to be second in command in Pharaoh, which was in Egypt, which was the powerfulest nation on earth at that time. But the times he spent in jail, where he couldn't go and be with his family, nothing like that. Yeah, he had some remorse about that. He had to be a divine one chosen of God. Just think if somebody did that to you. And a lot of us got that going on now, where family folks done did something against you, a while back. Then here they come back.
You still gotta help them out.
Yeah. You done been in my, you done went in and stole stuff from me. You know, you done stole something. I looked up my eye, go in there, whoa. You done stole stuff. And then here you come back, ha ha. You know, hey, now you gonna ask me to loan you $25 or $30. Oh, heck no. You know. In fact, you get back what you done stole from me. And then after that, I don't even want to have nothing else to do with you. So Joseph had a great heart. And he did it for the love that he had for his father and his younger brother, Benjamin. Because in that story, he said, okay, I want y'all to go back, go get the younger brother, Benjamin, and bring him to me. Joseph and Benjamin both had the same mother and father. Bring him to me, I want to. And then they said, oh, no, it will kill our father. But then they told on themselves, not knowing they were selling to Joseph. We had a brother named Joseph who, you know, something happened to him and it almost killed our father. We know he gonna die if you take Benjamin away. He said, no, you bring Benjamin back. And he said, in fact, before you go back, I think there was two of them that came with him. I think he kept Reuben. He kept one of the brothers there. Now you go back, just in case you don't come back. Now I got him as a prisoner. So he did exercise some things, you know, that he did, and you know, you can't really blame him for that. Now, that's why the stories in the Bible, the Old Testament stories, I've heard a lot of people, oh, we need to deal with the New Testament here. It's some great stories in there, and you can turn them around and use them today because the same stuff is happening today where people do things and stuff. The Bible, there's nothing new up under the sun. And, you know, I wish I could think about a story that was pertaining to this, but there is a lot of stories that people done left you out, done gave you away. It's been a lot of people who had children that they had to put up for adoption. They gave away, didn't want to have them. They didn't do that. Oh, another story I think about is similar to that, is that Shaquille O'Neal's real father, was married to his mother and, you know, then left his mother and left him. But then this other guy married her, which was a colonel, was in the army, and he raised Shaquille O'Neal up. Now, once Shaquille O'Neal reached the stardom that he did as a superstar basketball player, guess who came around?
Oh, yeah.
Wanted to be recognized. And Shaquille O'Neal did not recognize him. And that was according to his permissive will. Because if he could have said, no, God told me I got to forgive you and I got to do all that. Hey, nuh-uh, because you weren't my father. Because he remembered how his mother and him was coming up, how this man was there. And this man raised him up. This other father never came around. Biological father, his real father. Never came around to do anything until now. He done got on his feet and he got all this money, so you know what the other one's coming around for. And that's just one story I know of. It's a lot of stories like that with famous people
Oh, yeah.
that have been raised by other people. And then here come the parents around. Oh, that's my boy. Boy, look at it. Look how good he is. It was a movie that Tyler Perry had out that was similar to that.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of it, but he had it out. It was
Browns or something like that.
yeah, it was Fox. What's the name? I can't think of a basketball player. He was played in it. But
Meet the
anyway, it
Browns,
was
yeah.
on the same principle as that. As this boy doing good thing, here come his father around. That's my boy. Yeah, look at it. Boy, don't we look like. And he always been good. And he never went to one of his practices, none of his games. Wasn't there when he might have hurt his ankle or anything like, you know, through the hard times. And then once people reach stop status, here they come. So that's one story about that when it comes to that with dealing with the brothers. Somebody read, now you can read the second bullet point there.
Okay. First Samuel chapter 8, verse 6 through 9, God allows Israel to have a king even though it displeased him and that they rejected his direct rule. But he used this for his purposes.
That's it, for his purposes. This next one goes
Okay.
into something else. And I like this one. I've featured on this a couple times. Israel wanted a king. They had got into the promised land.
Oh, Saul.
And in the promised land, there was everybody around them. The Philistines had a king. The Gershonites and all these Ammonites and all. They all had kings over them. But Israel didn't have a king because their king was God. And God would speak to the prophets to tell them, or even to the judges who would tell them what it is they should do, instead of them going and having a king. Well, they wanted a king. Kept praying to Samuel, Samuel, give us a king. So God said, okay, give us a king. He said, but before you give him a king, I want to tell you what kind of king y'all gonna get. You're gonna get a king that's gonna have your young men run in front of his horses on like foot soldiers. So they're gonna be the first ones to die. Your young men. Yeah, all your young ladies, they're gonna have to work in the king's palace as servants, waiting on the king. He gonna raise up and put a property tax on everybody here. And it's a whole bunch of things. That's just a few of them that I do know of that he's gonna allow to happen. You know what the people said anyway? They still wanted him.
You still wanted the king.
Still wanted a king. Because everybody else had a king. And they still wanted him. So he said, go ahead, I want, and then God told him out here, I'll tell you what, they want a king. I want you to go out here and I want you to get Saul. He's gonna be the new king of them. Now Saul, King Saul, was a good-looking man. They said he stood head and shoulders over everybody else. He looked like a king. You know, that's what we have to be careful with when we're choosing pastors and preachers and stuff over just because they look like one. He looked like a king. He stood head and shoulders. Oh, now they're like, this is our king. This one's gonna take all kind of. In fact, when they came to make Saul king, Saul ran and hid. He was afraid.